Welcome to Portals of Perception. I'm here with Jeff, and we are ready to skate to the frontiers of emergence, our own and the collective emergence, and discover what is emerging with us today. So what is alive for you today, Jeff? Where should we explore and skate to today?
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Aviv, as always. I'm so grateful to be part of the portals of perception. And I am happy also to share that I'm in Crestone, Colorado, which is a wonderful place. The land is very powerful, very sacred. It's in a valley that has been called the Bloodless Valley because there was never fighting here. And there are many spiritual centers now in Crestone. So all kinds of lineages and traditions and backgrounds are represented. So there's a real richness as well as a great clarity at this altitude. The valley is at 8,000 feet and it goes up from there. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a fresh place with a lot of fresh energy and perspectives for today. And in terms of what's emerging for me, I suppose it's worth not holding back. So let me just say that last week, and since Passover, Easter, there has been a real renewal and also a renewal of my sense of the possible and my knowing that heaven on earth, the promised land, is here now. And I really feel it viscerally. And I have no more doubt. The signal strength is not evenly distributed. So there's plenty of work to do, but I'm seeing also that the people I work with, the people I know and relate with are seemingly slipping across this threshold into heaven on earth somehow. More and more people, not everyone yet, but many people are experiencing this profound peace and settling into, let's say, true nature and the present moment without worry for the future or carrying the past into the present moment. So there's some kind of release, some kind of deep healing and liberation that I feel is very much present for the collective. And so, I look forward to skating around this and other topics with you today.
So when you say heaven on earth, you're describing an unfolding process, not a moment in time. Am I getting that correctly?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not a time-based place or phenomenon. It's maybe a state of consciousness, you could say, and it's characterized by a profound feeling of peace and trust, relaxation, and also knowing of what the moment calls for, and then being able to act upon that. So one could say right action arising from the rootedness in the present moment. And then empirically, I've discovered, and I know it's not just me, that one right action leads to another right action, leads to beautiful things, large systems, even complex systems emerging that actually work. So I believe that's what's happening for our society now, is this wholesale reinvention and transformation from the inside out, which will result in new institutions and different economic models that are premised on different ideas.
Yeah, very curious. And you sense that on Thursday, the following the Passover and Easter, well, Passover was this year earlier, but Easter weekend, we actually worked on both weekends. So this weekend, we just yesterday landed a 3-day epoch culmination discovery journey, deepening in the green and blue epoch and their function and their purpose. And once again, when I say green and blue, many people will have different associations for the colors from variety of frameworks and development frameworks where colors are mostly used as signifiers of stages of development and such. I mean, and use the colors in quite a different context, more as actual realms of potential in the way they reveal themselves through the human experience, and what these therefore release as a function where the fractal of those permissions continues to reemerge throughout the epoch. So that's a body of work we focused on over the last 3 days and expanded into the fields of research and the body of work that needs to be taken up, and it clearly requires hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people worldwide to attend to all these, because the gist of it, if we embrace the framing that you offered of an heaven on earth, which would coincide very beautifully with the idea of a fractal of a green epoch release, because one of the functions, one of the teleologies of a green fractal is to forever renew the epoch when we reach a point of an end of something, or when something gets to an exhaustion point and it needs now to find its next new point of renewal and release. So that's what we've done in this last weekend. The weekend before, we spent a long Saturday, 7-hour, exploring the practice and the technology of searing moments, and the practice and the function of searing moments, and the philosophical, theological, and metaphysical, if you like, dimensions of it. So we can skate to any of the above. I have a sense of how it may want to play out, but you always have an intuitive sense. So let me ask you, should we explore any of the above or go somewhere else? Please lead us where it feels on to go to.
Well, for whatever reason, I feel searing moments very strongly. Maybe that's a starting point, that maybe we'll burn something away and something will be revealed. I'm definitely curious.
Okay, great. So let's do searing moments and then see if there is a natural way to flow to attend to what we just touched on in the idea of a green and blue epoch. Well, so let me say, I'm still learning how to actually talk about this idea of a searing moment. Although I have been doing or practicing the idea of a searing moment maybe for 30 years, maybe longer, before I actually knew I was doing something that I will later discover could be called a searing moment practice. So this is one of those situations where a practice is firstly appearing. My voice will adjust as we get in the flow of this after the 3 days process. This is one of those situations where the practice and the discovery is ongoing as an internal practice before you actually know you're doing something. And then when you reach a point, sometime 5 years later, in this case, more of a 8 years later, and you say, okay, how can I share or teach or communicate the way of the practice? And then you discover that you need to translate some of what you're doing into language. And when you do, you become, of course, more informed in yourself about it, because what was semi or unconscious becomes conscious, which is the gift of teaching or sharing or coaching to others. Because whenever we teach or coach to others, we first of all teach to ourselves, because we understand what the bleep we're actually doing. So I'd say that I'm discovering, and let's see through this rendering now how it will appear. The second thing I'll say is that, so there is a way to talk about the practice of searing moments. And when we talk about the practice, we will be looking at what is it you can do, and why and how do you take profoundly meaningful moments that occurred along your journey, either early in your life or later they were more self-fashioned, self-authored, and created. And you actually decided to make something a searing moment in the way you have chosen to write it into yourself. So a variety of searing moments, and I can give example. And then when we talk about the practice, it's the idea that you can continue to unfold the significance and develop the meaning of something that occurred to a point that you actually rewrite or update the significance of something. So that would be the practice. That's one level. I'm offering a simple threefold loom how to explore searing moments. The second would be more the philosophical and theological inquiry, which is why is it important now, especially in this time when I'm going to use a different or adjacent language, not different, but adjacent language to what you offered, when we can tell a story theologically and philosophically, and if you choose to embrace it as actual, you can as well, that we humans are now in the early stages of graduating to a new next phase of evolution, in which we are summoned or called or activated into the idea of Homo universalis, to begin to unfold and release the universal potential of human life, and what that means, and why central to that development is the idea of becoming a self-authored human, which will link us to the green epoch, because the catalyst, the green catalyst, in the way it is appearing now as a fractal, is an activation and release of the self-authored potential. So a bit of a tie-up. You know that I often think in a loom fashion, so I'm integrating those on the front end. So that would be the philosophical, theological line as we explore searing moments. The third would be more the invisible or metaphysical dimension, which in some way is a bridge between the practice and the theology. And when we will unfold and try to talk about searing moment in that context, in that dimension, we're describing moments in our lives where by luck or judgment or by serendipity or because of conscious interior intervention, we either allow or found ourselves in a moment in time where the realms of potential infiltrate the manifest realm, and what that means and how the searing moment technology and practice is a way to unfold and release the furtherance of what's locked in that searing moment, such that it becomes a source that continues to inform and reveal and offer revelatory content along your journey. So in actuality, you are not talking about something that happened in the past, because this is where the theological, philosophical, metaphysical come together. You'd say the moment that you have lived in back in time became a searing moment because for one reason or another there was some property, some content, painful or inspirational, transformational or arresting. All of the above could be searing moments where there was some content that wrote itself, engraved itself, etched itself, seared itself to every cell in your body, such that it becomes an imprint on your soul. Hence, I'm calling the idea that practice a searing moment, and the idea that you can in your meditative contemplative practice, access that experience, access that energetic content, and actually unfold and change or update the script of it in yourself. So I gave you the menu without going yet to the full depth, but simply to frame the practice of a searing moment, the theological and the metaphysical, and perhaps the best way is to talk about them all at the same time. But let me just pause here and give you a chance to react and guide the conversation, how it makes sense to further unfold this.
I feel somewhat activated by the possibility of exploring searing moments in a more way. I can think of a few in my life. So I've got points now. I imagine those who are listening may also be reflecting key instances of a transformative nature, be they, like you said, painful or inspirational. So I think what I'm drawn to then is the updating or rewriting. It's like the reinterpretation that becomes available with perspective and hindsight and additional life experience in service to unfolding the universal potential of human life. That's a major theme for me right now, and I know for many others as well. So it does seem like we're on the cusp of something there, and I'd love to have an additional tool in the toolkit to the work of becoming Homo Universalis.
Yeah, great. That's the project we are in, yes?